Scaling doesn't have to be as hard as you think it is, and in this video, I want to show you exactly how we're making it more difficult for our clients not to scale than it is to scale, and how you can do the exact same thing. And as always, I want to make this really straight to the point and actionable for you guys. So if you guys are getting value, make sure to subscribe, and let's just get straight into the value, okay? So what I found is that in terms of making scaling inevitable, right, making it really easy for you to scale, there are two main parts that you need to focus on, okay? And these parts are that you got to choose the right acquisition system. Okay, so you have to have a way of getting clients that is leveraged, which I'm going to speak about in a second. And also we got to figure out the exact inputs you need to get a certain output, okay, which I'm also going to get into. So let's start off with number one, which is going to be choosing the right acquisition channel. All right, so when I'm choosing an acquisition channel, I ask myself three main questions, okay? Is it simple? Because if it's simple, that means it's going to be scalable. If you have something that's really complex, it requires a lot of team members or a lot of complexity or a lot of systems behind it, then it's going to be very difficult to scale, because you're just going to have to add complexity with each sort of step that you're going to take in your business. And you're just going to reach a point where you're like, shit, I can't scale anymore. I need something more scalable, right? So you want to make sure that it's simple, which also means more scalable from the very beginning, okay? Second thing is I ask myself, is it predictable and is it consistent, okay? Because when you're starting out, you can do stuff that aren't, as predictable because you just need some clients, right? But when you're trying to scale, right, to those higher sort of numbers, you need something where you can predictably and consistently get from point A to point B every single time. That is repeatable, right? And that you know that for every $1 that you put in on ads, you're going to get $5 out. You know that for every input that you put in, you're going to get a certain output, okay? And then question number three is, how far can I automate it, okay? Because the more automated the process is, the less it's going to rely on you to actually put in the work, and the more inevitable scaling is going to become. So I'm definitely going to make a separate video about acquisition channels. So I'm not going to go super in depth in here on this, because this video would be like an hour or two long. But for the purpose of this video, I want to focus on the acquisition channel being predictable and it being automated. Right, so let's talk about predictability first. All right, so if we can't know that after we perform a specific action, we will get a specific result, as I said, right, we put in an input and we get a certain output. If we can't track that, then that automatically disqualifies the acquisition channel, right? And what gets disqualified here is content marketing, okay? Because it's cool, right? I like building a brand. I'm building a brand myself, and I recommend that you also build a brand. However, if that's the main way that you're trying to get clients through, unless you have a massive, organic content team and you're doing $500,000 a month, then it's going to be really difficult to use that as your main channel, right? For getting clients, okay? Because it's not consistent and it's not predictable, right? Which is the main problem that we're sort of addressing here, right? Because you don't know that for every piece of content that you post, you're going to get a client, right? You can't really track that. And another thing is, it's also not as automated, which I'm also going to get into in a second. But basically, you have to put in a lot of attention, especially with the volume that I see a lot of people doing, right? Because that's the sort of volume that is required nowadays in order to scale with just organic marketing. That's going to take a lot of attention from other parts of your business, which are arguably more important, right? Like the most important part of your business, in my opinion, is having the greatest product. If you're just spending all your day making videos, posting a shit ton of stories, then that's going to take a lot of attention from you having the best product. And if you have a worse product, that means you're going to make less money in the end, okay? The market is always going to catch up to who actually has the best product, right? So that's predictability. And then two is how automated it is, okay? Because as I mentioned in the intro of this video, the less comes down to you doing the work, the better, okay? Because if scaling can just happen in the background without you ever having to lift a finger, that is the best case scenario, okay? Right? And it's because humans make mistakes, and that leads to inconsistency, right? Humans are lazy, right? And if the system relies on you putting in extra work, then it's disqualified, because scaling isn't inevitable, right? The whole point of this video, as the title suggests, is making scaling inevitable, okay? So I'm living up to that promise. I'm actually, dialing in everything around scaling being inevitable, right? And then humans are difficult to manage, okay? Automation is better than delegation. If you delegate something, that's cool, because you don't have to do it anymore. But now you have to hire the person to do it. You have to redeploy new VAs, for example, because they do churn, right? You have to hire, you have to fire, you have to hire again after you have to fire. And also you have to manage, which is a huge part, okay? If you delegate something in your business, unless that person is an A player, and you're not really going to get an A player unless you have a really massive company, then you're going to have to manage that person quite a bit, and you're going to have to train them, right? Which is also going to take away from your attention, right? So if we can automate that, then that's the best case scenario, because then you don't even have to think about it, and it just happens on autopilot, right? Because the more people are involved in the acquisition system and in the acquisition process, the more effort you have to put in to see results, and the less inevitable it will become for you to scale, Okay, and the acquisition channel that I'm disqualifying here is called outbound. Okay, because you have to manage team members, and it takes a lot of attention, and it's not automated at all. It's literally the lowest leverage thing that you can do. Okay, with content, at least you have some leverage. Okay, because it's one to many. Right, you post a piece of content and like 1,000 people see it. However, with cold outbound, you send out a message and only one person sees it. Right, and that person doesn't even care about what you do 99% of the time. Okay, that's just the reality. So the channel that I found to fit this criteria best of the channel being simple, of it being predictable, and of it being as automated as possible is using paid advertising. Okay, is it simple? Like, yeah, it's simple. You turn on one ad and you get prospects flowing in. Okay, is it predictable? Is it consistent? Yes, because you can literally track the data and you can figure out that for every $1 that you're putting in, you're getting 5 out. Okay, and just to give you guys a bit of an insight into like our process, this is the funnel that we're using, and this is where sort of paid advertising comes into play. In our case, in what we do. So what we do is we run Instagram follow ads and we run Instagram DM ads through your Instagram profile, through micro VSLs on your page, which is literally just Instagram Reels. And then from there, like me personally, I have my YouTube channel, right, which you're watching right now, probably, unless this is an Instagram short, Instagram Reel. We have your YouTube channel right here, which nurtures and also leads to the call. On your Instagram, you have micro VSLs and you also have a setter, right? If somebody DMs you, you already have a conversation going on with them. If somebody follows you, you can start a conversation, you qualify them, and that leads to the call. Or you can have a VSL funnel, which I have in my bio right here. It is a free training that you can opt in for. You collect the data, you have some automations going out, and then that leads to the call, right? So this is basically where paid advertising comes in for us. And this is like the only acquisition channel that we're using. We're obviously posting content, right? But the content is here to nurture and it's not here to get clients, okay? Which is what I think content does really, really well. You can really build that connection and you can really build authority, build reciprocity, and make people know you, like you, and trust you with content. However, as I mentioned earlier, when you try to get clients with it, it's not as predictable. Okay, and that's one of the things that we are looking for when we're trying to make scaling inevitable, right? I'm not going to, just talk about the funnel for the whole video because that's not the point. You can check out some of my other videos if you want to learn more about this funnel. But basically, as I said, the conclusion is that the best channel for making scaling inevitable is going to be paid advertising. And now once you have your acquisition channel and you know what you're going to be using to get clients, the second part is figuring out the exact input that you need to get a certain output. Okay, and the goal is to boil scaling down to a science and being able to pinpoint the exact action that we need to take to achieve a numeric output. Okay, so I want to draw something here. Okay, so basically, what we want to do is we want to be able to say, if I put $100 into advertising, I'm going to get $500,000 out. Okay, we need to figure this out, and this is why choosing the right acquisition channel is so important. Okay, because you can't figure this out with content. Okay, and you can figure this out obviously with cold outbound. However, it's not scalable, as I mentioned earlier, because it's not simple. Okay, and it's not automated. So you're going to reach a threshold where you're not going to be able to scale any further with it. So what we want to be able to say is that for every $100 that I put in, I'm getting $500 out. Okay, that is the goal. Because when we do that, we literally know what we have to do to scale. Okay, and that is literally the definition of making scaling inevitable, right? And the best part is that since we chose the right acquisition model from the very beginning, the input, right? So this isn't even dependent on you because it's all automated, right? You literally just click a button on your screen, right? That is the only thing you have to do, and then you get the output, right? So now the only question that's left to answer is, how do I figure out the input that I need to put in order to get the output that I want to make scaling inevitable, right? And the answer is that you literally track your numbers, okay? So this is a screenshot from the tracking sheet that I have right now and that I'm using for our clients. We're tracking the new followers from the follower ads. We're tracking, your cost per call, your ROAS, your ROI, so you know exactly the input that you need to get a certain output. And we're also tracking like the cost per conversation, how many conversations are we turning into calls, how many DMs are we turning into conversations, and then how many calls are we turning into clients. And then we also have Go High Level, as I mentioned here. This is for the Go High Level automations, but it's also for literally tracking everything and having a CRM with everything in one place. And just having a CRM with all of the data that you need and all the landing pages that you need, all the automations that you need, and just having a sort of master place that you can store everything and have all of your data. This is a screenshot from one of our clients, Go High Level. And the whole point of this is that once we know that we are paying on average $5 for a conversation with a qualified prospect, and 20% of those conversations turn into calls, and then 30% of the calls close, we also know what we are spending to acquire a customer, right? And literally the tracking sheet is telling us right here, okay? So now we know what we are spending to acquire a customer, and we know exactly what sort of ROI we are getting on our investment. And once you have a validated offer that people actually want, and you validated your messaging, and you found the winning ad, because the system is automated and all you have to do to scale further than you currently are scaling to, all you have to do is just increase the budget, right? Because you know the exact input you need for an output, and you can just put in that input, and the input is automated in the first place, so it's inevitable for you to scale. The only thing that's going to be stopping you is your product breaking, okay? Because at that point, you will have created a lever that you can pull to scale inevitably, right? As I mentioned. So acquisition is never going to be the bottleneck. The only thing that may cause you to step off the gas and slow down is going to be the overwhelm of conversations you're having. So you're going to have to hire an appointment setter to handle that for you, and the overwhelm of calls you're going to be getting once you crank the campaign. So you may have to hire a closer. As I said, I would recommend hiring commission-only appointment setter to handle the conversations. Once you know how to appointment set, and once you're actually turning those conversations into calls yourself, and you're getting decent volume, so the appointment setter has something to work with, because otherwise you can't get a commission-only setter when the setter won't have any work to do. Then you can hire a setter, and you may need a closer once the amount of calls becomes overwhelming. So like for our client Antonio, which this screenshot is from, basically what we have right now is we have 2 setters in his DMs converting all the new followers, all the DMs, everybody who interacts with his profile into calls. And then right now we have 2 closers turning those calls into clients. But to be honest, a very lean team like a setter and potentially a content editor, right, will get you very, very, very far. Okay, because once you start getting an overwhelming amount of calls, what you can do is you can just increase the friction and make it so you're getting less calls, but you're getting way more qualified calls. And you can manage without a closer for a pretty dang long time. I know people who are past 100K a month and they don't have closers. Okay, so it's not really a must, right? As I said, I'm talking 7 figures a year, right? And the problems that I'm talking about here, which is you having to hire a closer, you having to hire a setter, I think they're pretty good problems to have, to be honest. So I am going to wrap this video up here. I think I went over everything. I hope this was very, very valuable for you guys, and I hope it was very, very clear, and that I didn't miss anything. And like, now you guys know how to choose the right acquisition channel, and then how to make it inevitable for you guys to actually scale. So if you guys enjoyed this video, then drop me a sub here on YouTube. I'm posting videos like this every single week, 2 times a week. And I want to continue doing so, right? So if you guys found this valuable, drop me a sub. If you have any questions about this system, and you want to see if we can help you implement literally all this for you so that you can make scaling inevitable, then drop me a DM on Instagram. Here is my Instagram. And we can have a more deeper, in-depth conversation about this. So I'm going to wrap this video up here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.